When we look for answers to why things aren't working anymore for weight loss, we tend to land on things like I get too hungry, I can't fight the cravings, I start off great, but within a few weeks, I am not following the plan anymore. It's exhausting, right? It can make us feel kind of dumb. Like, has everyone else figured this out? And I just need to try harder to overcome these obstacles and somehow keep going next time. I think we feel like those obstacles are proof that we just need to try harder, we need more willpower. That's not what they're proving. In reality, those obstacles are proof that the approach we're using itself is wrong. We don't have to get better at managing these obstacles. Once we begin using an approach that truly works with our body rather than constantly depriving it, those obstacles don't show up anymore. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Keep watching. I'm Dr. Ginny Trierweiler. I'm a psychologist, health coach, and author of a best-selling book on wise eating and weight loss. I spent years cutting through the misinformation about food and weight to find what actually works, including for women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. One of the biggest reasons we get stuck is the approach we were all taught. Eat less, exercise more, you'll lose weight. But at this point in our lives, trying to starve ourselves slender, that's not going to work anymore. It's what I call a force method. We're trying to force the body to get smaller, doing battle with it instead of working with it. And for most of us, that might have worked for a while. But these days, it just backfires. We cut back, and instead of things moving in the direction we expect, we just get really hungry and low energy. We can't stick with it. Here's why. When we try to force our body to let go, it fights back with hunger, low energy, and a mind that's preoccupied with food. It's doing what it's designed to do, protecting our survival. That's why the eat less advice is just wrong, misguided, pretty much a lie. Not because the quantity of food we eat doesn't matter, but because just eat less is not a real strategy. It's telling us to override hunger with willpower. It's not telling us how to change the conditions that make us hungry in the first place. We need an approach that works with our body, not an approach that tries to force it to do what we want it to do. And honestly, it works a lot better to start by focusing on what to eat more of. And I know that might sound like I'm trying to be clever or something, but there are real biological and real psychological reasons that an abundance-focused approach works better than a restriction-based approach. I'm going to show you more about that in a different video. But here's another reason that the eat less approach doesn't work. We get cravings. I remember feeling like I could finally do this if I didn't get these terrible cravings. And I would fight them. And some days I do pretty well, and other days it would all just get away from me. The thing is, these cravingful foods and drinks, they end up being more important than we ever wanted them to be. And then cravings become this constant, low-grade source of stress in our daily lives. We're trying to manage them. It can become an obsessive thing. Managing our cravings ends up taking way too much energy. This has become so normal, we don't even see that it's a trap. These things become treats, something we're supposed to enjoy, but only on special occasions, not too much. So we tell ourselves, well, this is a special occasion, and I'm just going to have a little. And I don't know about you, but I would get this little niggle of awareness, like maybe I'm saying just a little, an awful lot. Seems like it's more and more. And maybe it's a reason things haven't been working lately. It makes me always think about my client, Coleen. She struggled with cravings and obsession around certain foods and drinks her whole life. She would indulge in the cravingful things for a while and then get frustrated with the weight gain. And then she'd clamp down and the weight sort of start to correct, but then she'd start feeling deprived. She'd start getting cravings again, and she'd end up right back in the same cycle. Now, by the time she came to me around age 60, she'd just quit alcohol the year before and was really pretty amazed that instead of feeling sad and deprived, she felt freer, she felt healthier, she felt better in so many ways. So that gave her the courage to try changing her approach to food too. although she was worried it would be like death by 1,000 cuts. And it wasn't like that. The obsession and the cravings just stopped. But before I talk about how that works, one of the things that kept Coleen stuck for years was a strategy most of us turn to, which is using exceptions to cope with cravings. We carve out these special categories of foods and drinks we're going to indulge in, and then we apply certain rules to managing them so we don't overdo it. I call it exceptions-based eating. I think it's a trap we use to make those forced methods something we can survive. And then we get these cravings, they convince us we're just going to have a little. We just need a little. It feels really normal. It feels really harmless, just how it is. Because we've been taught our whole lives that exceptions are something to cherish, that special occasion idea, the idea of something sweet at the end of the meal. These days, nobody thinks twice about it. But for so many of us, the special occasions and the exceptions escalate, so it's becoming a little more and a little more all the time, and it starts to add up. Without realizing it, those exceptions can start to fill up our plates. And what that means, our body never gets the steady nourishment it needs to build the healthy future we want. And we end up feeling like we're failing, like we're weaklings. We beat ourselves up over it. But we didn't create this trap. Those foods that cause cravings are engineered to be very hard to moderate, to be irresistible. And once you see how this works, the way out is closer than you think. But even when we start to see the trap, there's a part of us that wants to let this whole thing go. After all, we've been getting terrible advice our whole lives about how to eat and how to lose weight. Force methods pit us against our own bodies. We end up with more exceptions than our body can handle. So our brain starts looking for reasons to wait for a better time, or maybe just accept things as they are. It says maybe this is just what happens at our age. But that isn't true. This stage really does bring real changes in the body, but it doesn't mean you're powerless. It doesn't mean that weight gain and cravings are just your new normal. How we eat becomes more important than ever at this stage. And once you understand how that works, you can see you still have a powerful way to change things. If you want to understand more about that, I have a video that goes deeper into what's going on when our estrogen and progesterone drop off and why changing our diet is a game changer at this stage. The way forward is to stop fighting your body and start focusing on fully nourishing it. Find a way of eating that's nourishing and satisfying, and you no longer need all those exceptions. Stop feeding the cravings, and they'll stop showing up. That's exactly what changed for Coleen. She stopped feeding her cravings, and the obsessions just stopped. A giant weight came off her shoulders. Her whole life got lighter and brighter. That's what becomes possible when we fully nourish the body. When your body is fully nourished and satisfied, it stops defending the weight. It remembers its own wisdom, and the whole experience becomes calm, satisfying, just completely different. We no longer find it's hard to stick with the way we're eating because we love it and it works. I'm not saying there's no challenges to changing our eating this way. We have a lot of practice going back to our old ways, right? So it can still take intention to eat in a way that works, but it stops being a battle. It's not painful. It's all about using a wise approach that fully nourishes the body. So the wise eaters I know say the same kind of phrase over and over. I'm not on a diet. This is just how I eat and I love it. I'm never going back. And I gotta tell you, it works so much better with some real support. Because force methods, that's what we've always known. That's what our whole lives got built around. So don't feel like you have to keep trying to figure this out on your own in an environment that makes that truly difficult. We've built something different in SimplyWise for good. A simple, wise eating approach and the guidance and support to successfully install it in your life. All right, if this kind of thinking is useful to you, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. There's more of this every week. And I'm curious, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these hit closest to home for you? The cravings, the exceptions, or something else? Tell me in the comments. All right, keep it simple, keep it wise, and keep your spark alive.